This is me at 320, squatting 870. This is me a year later, walking around at 240, squatting 880. And if you're a powerlifter who's worried about staying strong while losing weight, this video is for you. So how did I pull that off? Well, we're gonna get into it, but I'm gonna lay out the real secret sauce first, because this is the thing that nobody tells you. If your biggest focus during a cut is not losing strength, it can backfire on you. And I'm going to explain that in a bit, but first we need to get into the 3 big reasons why strength loss is something that can happen while dieting, and how we can diet and train strategically to both lose weight and maintain or even gain strength. And the first reason is that to lose weight, you will need to be in a caloric deficit. That means that you will need to take in less caloric energy from your food than you're burning with your training and just being alive, because that burns calories too. What that means for your training and your strength levels is that as you pull calories out or up your energy expenditure, you're going to have less immediately available energy to put into your sessions, which kind of sounds bad, right? Well, it's necessary, and it doesn't have to be all that terrible, because how big of a deficit we set determines how low on fuel we're going to feel. So if you kick things off with a 1,000-calorie deficit, it ain't gonna feel very good, and strength will likely crater. But if you start out around 200 to 400 calories under your maintenance, you might not feel as peppy as you normally do in the gym, but that can be easily combated. And before we talk about that, if your training feels stuck, cutting or not, and you don't know what to do with your programming, your technique, your accessories, your intent, hit the link below and check out the team, because I want to help you become a better lifter by giving you daily individualized coaching so that you can know exactly what it is that you need to be doing to drive progress. Prices are going to be ramping up from $49 a month to $99 a month on April 1st, so sign up now to lock in that lower rate. How? By simply not thinking yourself into a spiral of getting weak. Because if you walk into a session telling yourself that you're hungry, saying things that are going to feel off, telling yourself that you're down, well, you're priming yourself to feel off. The biggest tool in my toolbox right now for making sure that my performance in the gym stays high as possible is telling myself that I don't care how I feel. I'm going to do my best to make my training as productive as possible. And with that attitude, yeah, some sessions still don't feel that great, but more often than not, I'm surprised by how well I'm able to perform despite how low my calories are. Because so much of powerlifting performance, cutting or not, is going to be mental. And if you're starting a session off telling yourself that it's going to be bad, you're going to have a very hard time doing good. But we also don't want to go into the session telling ourselves how we feel doesn't matter, we're going to headbutt the wall and smash a PR anyways. Because more on that in reason number 3, but how we feel is still going to have some impact on our performance no matter how we're thinking about it. We just want to minimize the degree of impact that it has. So what we want to do is learn how to dissociate how you feel from the effort you put in. If your goal is to have the highest standard of effort, no matter how you feel and no matter what weight is on the bar, that's how you're going to hold on to strength during a cut. Which brings us to reason number 2, that strength can fall during a cut. And this one can be a little bit more difficult to manage, but we have ways to work around it. And that reason is leverage changes. As you lose weight, there's going to be less of you, which means you're not going to be able to support yourself on your belly in the bottom of a squat. Your bench range of motion is going to get bigger, and you're not going to have as much compression in the bottom of a deadlift. And as those leverage changes start to hit, looking in the mirror, it gets really cool, but lifting, not so much. So what are we going to do about it? And we've got 2 strategies depending on how you're approaching your cut. The best option and the easiest option is setting your cut up slow enough that the leverage changes happen at a rate so gradual that you're just able to learn your new leverages and adapt to them. This is also going to help with reason number 1, because the deficit won't be as big and energy won't feel nearly as tanked. The second is, if you have a reason to cut more aggressively like me right now, we want to learn to be okay that numbers are going to fall as our leverages change. But doesn't that sound like the exact opposite of what we want to happen if we're trying to stay strong on a cut? Well, exactly. And we're going to get more into this in reason number 3. But the reason I'm okay with my numbers falling right now as I'm cutting hard is that I know it's leverage related. And I know once I figure out my new leverages, I am going to be more than good to go. So how do I know that it is a leverage thing? Well, if you look at my training across the board right now, my barbell lifts, they aren't going the greatest. Numbers feel way down, everything feels foreign, but on my accessories, stuff is still cruising. I'm still hitting PRs, everything is trending the way that I needed to trend. So what gives? On the big barbell lifts, I'm so dependent on my technique, my positioning, and skill that the changes I'm seeing in my leverages are really hard to fight with. But on accessories where I'm less reliant on leveraging my technique, did you catch the pun there? And the goal is just to contract hard, the tissue that I have is still there and I can still contract as hard as ever. So I'm still strong, it's just that my technique hasn't quite caught up with my new proportions and I'm not worried about it. I'm not trying to fight it. I'm not trying to force it because I know that the strength on the big barbell lifts, it's gonna come back. So how do I know that and how am I gonna get it back? Well, I know that I haven't actually gotten that much weaker because of where my accessory lifts are. Heck, there are some things like my machine overhead where I'm stronger than ever. And I know that once my cut finishes and my diet stabilizes, it's just going to be a matter of time of holding on to the same body weight for long enough that will allow me to learn the technique that I need to work with my new proportions. And as soon as that happens, I'm going to be as strong as ever. And that's exactly what I did the last time I went down to 242 to make that 880 squat. But this time around, I'm doing something even more beneficial for the process. And that brings us up to reason number 3. Fatigue. Because not only are you inputting less energy during a cut, but the act of losing weight is a fatiguing process. So if you're not managing your training well, you are going to feel it and performance will tank. And that's why trying our hardest to hold on to strength despite energy and leverage changes can backfire on us. What often happens, and I've been there, is that if we start pushing into an 11 out of 10 to try to hold on to the numbers and volume markers we were hitting at maintenance, that fatigue train is going to hit us hard and fast. And that is when things go really, really bad. Because if we become so fatigued that we can't make training productive anymore and push our accessories hard enough to hold onto the strength that is there, that's when we become at risk of real strength loss. So how do we manage fatigue? Well, the first step is going to go back to reasons 1 and 2 because we don't want to force the issue if things aren't going well because of your deficit or leverage changes. Why? Forcing the issue is only going to lead to more fatigue and more performance loss. We do not want that spiral. But if you're really getting down there, fatigue is going to be harder to manage even if we aren't forcing things in the gym. So what we want to do is learn how to strategically pull back. And how do we pull back and have the least detriment to our strength? Well, we got to think about what creates fatigue in the first place. And the answer isn't effort, because we need high effort and heavy reps, especially on our accessories, if we want to hold on to strength. What we don't need is excessive volume at those higher levels of effort, because that is what's going to smash us. Because yeah, even if volume can help us build capacity, if you're already externally limited in how much work we can sustain, just adding more work isn't going to help. And the return you get by adding extra sets is going to diminish with each extra set that you have. So the first place that I will get lifters to pull back on if they are cutting hard is we want to tone down our set count, especially if they are starting to allow fatigue to accumulate. Next, if they still need more pullback, we're going to look at adjusting exercise selection to movements that still allow high effort, but with less systemic fatigue across the board. So we might swap out a barbell row for a chest-supported machine row, or a high bar squat secondary for a pendulum. And if fatigue is still creeping in, then I'll look at pulling back on less critical exercise slots, so we can ensure that the ones that we need to prioritize are still being cranked. And for me right now, that means I'm doing way less biceps work than I was at the beginning of the cut. But if my goal is just to be a good powerlifter, I only need enough biceps work to support that, which isn't very much. I don't need giant ass arms, so I'm okay with putting them on the back burner if that means I can crank my tris better. And what's wild is that on this cut, once I pulled back the amount of work I was doing, the work I was still doing got so much better. Performance started to climb, weights are going back up, I'm feeling stronger, and it is more evident than ever that it's working because since pulling back and allowing more recovery, the weight loss has actually increased without changing my calories, which means that even if I did pull back on the amount of training that I'm doing, the work that I am doing now is so much more effective than the work that I was doing before the pullback. And figuring all of this stuff out is exactly why I launched the Cut Like a Powerlifter Challenge in the team starting this Monday. Because what we're doing with that challenge is we are going to see who on the team can lose the most weight while holding on to the most performance. And what does the winner get? Well, they're getting sent a brand new ELITEFTS SS yoke bar, and we got plenty of other prizes too. So if you're starting a cut, joining the team and hopping in for the challenge could be a great way to make it more fun. And if you need to cut, the challenge could be a good way to get the ball rolling. So why do you want to do it with the team instead of just doing it on your own? Accountability and coaching along the way. Because while you're in the challenge and after, you're going to get all of the benefits of the team. Daily individualized coaching directly from me, access to our entire educational library, and programming sent straight to an app on your phone. Even if you aren't cutting, the team is still worth it because it's one of those things that if everyone knew how much they could get inside, everyone would be inside. And if you need more reason to sign up so we can make the team even better, prices are going to be climbing from $49 a month to $99 a month on April 1st. And if you sign up now, you will be able to lock in that lower rate.